developer. Amy Day, over to you.
Hi guys, good evening. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. So today we're going to be talking about creativity as a front end developer. I mean, initially I didn't want to add as a front end developer. I just want to say unleashing creativity, but then again, I feel that because of the fact that I do front end, I should have a conversation about creativity and what it actually involves, and that it's not really a magical thing. So let's dive into it. The conversation about creativity is a critical one. To see your potential as a developer or as a human being, you have to solve problems continuously and you have to find ways to surprise yourself, if I can put it that way. And that requires creativity and a strong level of persistence. So, creativity, I would define it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Okay,
hear you
no
now.
problem.
You went off for a bit, but yeah,
Yeah, so
good.
the desire to take an idea from your mind, from your imagination, and to turn it into something that you can see, interact with, and yeah, be able to articulate and explain to someone else. So, uh, why be creative? I want to share my screen now. Screen. So I'm going to share my screen now, so you guys can follow along with talk. Ha. So share my screen now. Hope you guys can see it. So yeah, why be creative? I mean, what's the outcome that we're going for? So you enjoy work more. I remember this quote I saw somewhere from Carl Newport, the computer scientist, and he said something like, um, if you want to enjoy work, basically, I don't know if I'm saying it word for word, but if you want to enjoy work, then you have to be really good at it. So if you're a very creative solution, like the person that always has solutions to things, then you're definitely going to enjoy work more. And yeah, your boss will be delighted. You get recognized by your peers. Your confidence will also skyrocket. So yeah, I mean, these things are just so awesome, and you want those things as a developer, you know. And so being creative helps you get to those things. So I want to state that my goal for this workshop is to help you realize what being creative could look like for you and how to translate that into the software that you end up building. And yeah, I know it's supposed to be very technical, but I'll attempt to have you reason on the subject of creativity before I show you my process, and then I give some tips, and then we can call it a day. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is mental models. So the thing about mental models is that they have really helped me to think outside of the box and to come up with new ways to do things. So a mental model is basically a condensed bit of knowledge that you can reuse over and over again to help you achieve the outcome that you want. So the first model that I want to talk about is inverted thinking, right? So inverted thinking. So inverted thinking, the idea behind it is basically to ask a different set of questions to everyone else. So to flip a problem on its head and to find solutions and unlock creative ability. I made this little illustration here. So basically, we're going to use inverted thinking to figure out how to be more creative. So if everyone sees a problem or a uh, or an event from the same lens, they're always going to ask the same type of questions. So if you want to have different results, you have to ask a different set of questions. And so to do that, you can easily just flip the problem on its head. Let's say, for example, I'm talking about being creative. So, um, what would I do that will ensure that I never create anything? Like I said, creativity is the desire and ability to make things. So I could ask myself if I wanted to practice like inverted thinking, and I could ask myself, um, what would ensure that I never create anything, and then I just try to avoid um, that completely, right? So there's also a quote I saw that said that um, avoiding stupidity is much harder and it's much easier than actually being smart. So yeah, so let's ask the question again. I'm trying to figure out how to be creative. So instead of thinking, what should I be doing? What if I thought about what should I not be doing? So you want to get creative as a developer. So you want to create websites, you want to integrate APIs, you want to make design systems. So what are the things that ensure that you never actually do any of those things? So creativity sappers, I guess. So yeah, a poor learning mindset. I'll start with that. So a poor learning mindset, you will feel sad when you don't have a learning mindset because you will not know enough to act. Basically, you will not feel like you know. You will never feel like you know enough to make a choice or make an action or start doing anything or start making anything. Right. So that's one. And then waiting for the perfect time. As two. So you never act, you're always stalling, there's always an excuse. So you can't create that thing. You can't learn how to do this new thing. You can't come out of your own shell. And there's that as well. And then there's a fear of failing. So if I was always scared that I would fail, I would never actually do anything of significance. So you never act, basically. And then being comfortable, you don't need to act. Basically, I feel well. I'm chill. I'm making money, and you know everything is going well. So I don't necessarily need to learn anything new or try to create something new or push my own boundaries. So yeah, that could also ensure that I never create anything of significance. And also, maybe the most potential or the strongest one is getting distracted. So you've crossed the hurdle and you are acting now and you are being courageous and being fearless, and then you can't seem to stay in one place. You're getting distracted. You feel overwhelmed by the choices that you have to make, and then so you never or you cannot act. You're paralyzed in that sense. And then we have the last one that I'm going to touch on, which is a lack of persistence. So when things go south, when stuff hits the fan, and yeah, you can't see it through. So that means you can't finish what you started. Remember a quote by the artist, I can't remember his name right now, but he said that art is never finished but just abandoned. So yeah, um, if we decided to avoid these six things that I said, you really don't have to do much else. The goal to being creative is, well, I would say that if you actually want to perform the actions, that you you need to spend less time looking at examples of creativity and actually uh, start to avoid these things I said. So now, when you avoid those things, then um, all you have left is basically the room to create. So let's try to think through removing these things one by one. So the first one I mentioned was a poor learning mindset. So I want to introduce a concept. I don't know if anyone that's listening understands game theory. So it's something that I read up on, something that I've been trying to understand for a while now, and I clicked some days ago. So we're all familiar with games. So we play a game, or a couple of people, a couple of parties come together to play a well structured game. There's a set of rules, and there's an objective of the game. and then under certain circumstances, it is said that one or more parties have won the game, basically. So, and then there are some other games where there are no definite set of rules, and the objective of the game actually to is actually to keep playing. So it's the kind of the same with life and with learning. So if you have a finite, I see a lot of people, and myself included, when I first started out, I had a finite goal always. I want to get a job. I want to build this product. I want to be a senior engineer. I want to work at XYZ company. A person who, instead of saying that, actually says, you know what, I just want to do this thing that we're doing here, this game that we're playing with, creating software. I just want to create software for a very long time and see how it goes. And I'm just going to start doing that today. I feel like that person is going to have more of a license to create, because for that person, creation is something that never ends. So you keep doing it. So when you stop having a finite goal in mind, then you can see beyond the daily grind, the daily hustle and bustle into a more like a bigger and brighter future. And it's all talk about how can you actually have a good learning mindset, and a lot of it is down to you. Right, I see a lot of people say that your environment might not help you, the job that you're working at might not help you, and I fell into that trap myself. The first experience that I had, it was a situation whereby I kind of relied on the people that were around me, the senior engineers around me, to help me grow technically, and it didn't work out that way, unfortunately. And so a lot of my growth was left to me. So in reality, that's just how it is. Your growth is up to you. You can't rely on anyone. And so if your company or your whatever situation you're in does not allow you to have a good learning mindset, then you need to find ways to start to see it as a long thing, a thing that never really ends. And I'm not saying that you should code forever. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that you unleash your creativity. To unleash your creativity, you need to make the thing that you're doing, you need to make it such an enlivening experience, something that you're so passionate about that you never actually want to stop. Like you don't see yourself stopping for any reason at all. And so you're always learning, you're always putting stuff out there, and yeah, you're putting stuff out in the world, and you realize that the dance never ends, and you can keep doing that. So when you keep doing that, it doesn't feel like work anymore to learn things, right? Because it's just what it is, right? It's just what it is. You have to learn. You have to learn things. So now the second one I want to speak on is the second creativity snap. Okay, in my slides here, you can see some of the ones I jotted down. I kind of summarized them a bit into the points I just mentioned, but you can see inaction, indecision, fear, laziness, perfectionism, comfort, poor learning habits. We just covered that. Poor company culture. We just kind of covered that too, but I'll get back to that, I'll expand on that more. So now I want to talk about waiting for the perfect time. So here are some things I say to myself when I catch myself wasting time. I say, fortune favors the bold. So there's no such thing as a perfect time. No person who ever wanted to read, like whoever really wanted something bad, ever waited for the perfect time, for ample amounts of money, or there's just no excuse to make when you are in the moment of inspiration. So one thing I know for sure, and I can candidly give advice on, is that if you wait, then you will kill the inspiration. Like if you get an idea, or maybe let's say, what's the typical front end developer? Okay, you are working on a feature, at your place, and you have no idea how to do it, and then maybe something clicks later on in the day. It could be any time of the day. It could be at all times. It could even be in your sleep, right? So one thing I know for sure, or one thing that has helped me for sure, was never um what's it called, never stalling when I got inspiration to do something. So whenever I get that, whenever something clicked, even if I wasn't close to my laptop and I couldn't do anything, I would make sure I just put it down in my notes and I explained it as vividly as possible so that I can remember things that remember the inspiration that comes to me when it does. And that's just one aspect of inaction or indecision, right? But the thing is, creative people are always very, very, very spontaneous and unpredictable. So if you want to be more creative, you need to take that step to be very, very spontaneous. And so you can't just wake up one day and then all your self doubt will disappear. And self doubt appears in several ways as a software person, a software developer. Like, am I good enough? Like, should I be doing this now? What if it doesn't work out? Some people suggest loving yourself more and practicing gratitude, and stuff like that. But I'd be shocked if that actually helped anyone by itself. The real thing that I see people do is just find ways to take that first action, and everybody has different ways of of doing the first action that takes them in the right direction. So I found that the most natural way of taking that big leap is not by forcefully suppressing your own self doubt or your fears, but by gently leaning over your edge. That means leaning over where you think your potential is capped. And yeah, what I do personally is that I break down the work required to the smallest piece. So if I see this crazy design that I really like, I just try to break it down from first principles. Like, okay, how could it work this way? And then I just try to describe it myself and try to break everything down into tiny pieces, or even if it's a big feature that I have to make, I think about it in terms of breaking it down into the tiniest of pieces so that I can now take that first action, because that first action is actually the most important. And I made a little diagram that shows the importance of taking the first action. So, yeah, can look at this. So, I made this diagram this morning, and yeah, so you it's like you're throwing a brick into a space, right? And you're trying to throw yeah, so you're trying to take that first step. So that first step is usually the hardest, but it gets easier and easier as you go on. So you have to find a way. Some people, they are kind to themselves. They, give themselves like self love and stuff like that. Some other people have to literally, work really hard and bully themselves. Whatever works for you, really. But you just need to find a way to take that first step. And yeah, once you do, you're directly on that path to doing something different, and that in itself is worth it, 1,000 times over. So now let's break down a big part of, inaction, which I think is a fear of failing. So first of all, there's so many ways to. Everybody says this, that you shouldn't be afraid to fail. Everybody fails, stuff like that. So for me, I ask myself, what does a failure actually look like? Like, what is the event in itself? A failure. Um, Maybe a code review. You're getting cooked. Your code is bad. Your qualifications at this job are being reviewed. Or you're trying to launch a product. You botched your product launch, and now you have zero users on your big day. Or you push code to production, and yeah, you know the story. It crashes, and then you're up all night trying to fix things, and your superiors are angry at you, or you mess up. Like everyone messes up from time to time. You can't always get it right, and we know this because we all have blind spots and make human errors. And for me, I think that to avoid a fear of failure, you cannot trick yourself out of it. Or well, I would say I can't trick myself out of a fear of failure if we're being real, because that would just be suppressing it, and then it always will pop up in one way or the other because you can't avoid failure. What I try to do is that I try to strip away all the uh, perspectives, all the negative perspectives that come from failure, and actually see failure as a an event, just like any other event that happens in life. It doesn't have to have any strings attached. Sometimes we may say, if we fail, you may not say it to yourself, but it's a conscious feeling to yourself that when you fail, um, that you are incompetent, and that you, like, imposter syndrome type of thing, and that you don't deserve to be here, and everybody's so much better than you, stuff like that. So yeah, to stop being scared and to finally toss that first brick, um, we need to confront the emotional turmoil, that is failure. And I have benefited a lot from asking myself, uh, what does failure actually look like, and what is the event in itself. I don't focus on, okay, how will other people see me if this doesn't work out, because this is the situation that we're in right now. I focus on what is the event itself, and I try to build from it. So when you're trying to be creative, you will receive a lot of, like, backlash. You receive a lot of obstacles. People are not going to really like your stuff at first. People are not going to really like your ideas at first. But what you need to do is that you need to confront that and ask yourself, okay, what are all the ways that this could actually fail? This thing that I'm trying to uh, achieve, right? So you're standing there with your brick and you're thinking, should I lay this brick or not? You're trying to make all these excuses because you're scared that you're not good enough, that you need to learn more. So basically, you need to ask yourself, what do I need to know? Like, what's the smallest piece of what I need to know to do this thing? Like, if it's a feature or whatever, what's the smallest piece of thing that I need to know? Who do I need to talk to, and what do I need to ask to get the information that I need to to do this? Right? Because you need to do it, you have to do it, and you can do it. All you need to do is be practical about it. You don't need to attach any strings to this software thing. All you need to do is actually be practical about it, and you will get what you need. Another tactic that I use is trying to kind of outwork my own self doubt by uh, thinking about all the ways that it could fail. Like, for example, I have side projects that I work on that I try to launch, and I try to make it a thing that brings value. So I always think about ways in which my side projects could fail terribly, why people will not want to use them, and especially when you're thinking about Nigerians, you really have to be very, very pessimistic in that sense. So it's kind of a way of outworking my own self doubt, because when I thought about all the ways that something could fail, I'm no longer scared of it because I understand the situation now, and I can move forward with more clarity. Some people, or most people, won't be willing to do that, and you don't necessarily have to, depending on the situation that you're in. But you need to find ways to strip the failure of all the glaring eyes of what people would think, what you yourself think about yourself deep down, incompetence and stuff like that. Yeah, you need to strip all of that away and look at failure as just what it is, the act of it happening itself, and then from there you can actually develop more confidence. And now on to the next one, which is being comfortable, right? So being comfortable, that's the fourth one. So in a situation where you feel comfortable, uh, you feel like you don't need to act, and this is a very dangerous trap for several reasons. And a lot of people are comfortable even though they have nothing to be comfortable in per se. Like, we see software, development has exploded and everybody does it now. Like what people are saying, tech is oversaturated and stuff like that. And a lot of people are comfortable in the sense that they feel that they just have to do what people are doing in order to get the same results as them, because we're all on social media, we're all looking at these tweets, we're looking at these LinkedIn posts, we're looking at these what else, what other platforms, I mean, we're looking at the news, we're seeing what's going on, we're seeing what people are talking about, and we're saying, okay, I want these benefits for myself. Like, this is something that looks nice. So I want those things. So you're comfortable in that, in the sense that thinking in another way is like, nah, I don't think that works, because like nobody really talks about that. Nobody really puts that in a good light. And another perspective of being comfortable is that, okay, you've blown out, you have the job, you have the money, and you are, you're good. You're a very good software developer, and unfortunately, you're not growing, in terms of you're not building new stuff. So one thing I say to myself is that if you're not growing, then you're actually dying, and if you're not advancing, then you're declining. So if you're not growing as a developer, then you're actually declining, because the market is always growing. And when I say growing as a developer, some people tend to misconstrue growing as a developer as learning new technologies, but those two things are not linked. For me, you can use the same technology depending on the kind of situation you're in, and still be growing at an extremely fast pace as a developer, without needing to switch languages as much or learn 100 new web dev technologies. So it's not by buying all the courses on Udemy and posting your posting your certificate on LinkedIn and stuff like that. I mean, pushing your boundaries, creating that hard feature that only the top engineers are doing. Maybe cracking out some crazy leak code questions. I mean, like, actually pushing your boundaries. So, like, if you make normal 2D based websites with normal UIs, maybe you could try making 3D based websites. Maybe you could try something new. I mean, it's 10 times easier nowadays to just pick up new stuff. So maybe try doing the UI and UX design of your next side project, learning how to use Figma, learning how to create cohesiveness in your UI. Maybe if you're a really technical, geek or something, maybe you can try creating your own JavaScript library. You can do technical deep dives, you can explore the internals of web frameworks. I was on a Twitter space like a couple of weeks ago, and I was discussing the internals of Vue with some guy. I can't remember his name right now, and it was really nice. I mean, these things are nice because it's something that I'd never really considered, how these things actually work per se. Like, I may have an elementary understanding, but that day I actually got a deep understanding of how it works. So, with that comes growth. So you're not chasing perfection. You're not playing a finite game of, I want to get a job. I want to work at XYZ company. you know you are actually playing an infinite game, a game that the point of the game is just to keep playing and to enjoy yourself along the way, right? So yeah, those are the things that you can do. And the truth is that if you're not in an environment that encourages you to learn in excess, like I mean in excess, then you should probably consider either changing your environment or finding ways to learn as much as you can and actually enjoy it, right? And actually enjoy it to the point where you are, learning so much and gaining so much from it. So now not the last one, the second to the last thing I'm going to touch on is getting distracted. This one is like a personal problem of mine. I'm very, very distractible. I remember my friend once told me that I have, I don't actually have ADHD, but I was once told that I have ADHD by my friend, which was very weird because I don't. Right. So that was when I realized that you actually get distracted a lot, and to actually finish a piece or a thing, a side project that you're working on as a developer is almost like an achievement, something that you should have like a medal for completing your side project. So for me, it's simple how for avoiding distractions um is to become well, I won't say temporarily obsessed, but I would say it depends. It depends on the project. It depends on the thing. But if you want to avoid getting distracted without stressing your mental your mental state, then you need to be obsessed. Like you need to actually be obsessed with something, right? So when you're distracted or when distractions pop up, something always has to give way for the other. Somebody's calling you, somebody's texting you, or I don't know, or there's some other shiny project, or some people are talking about Vue on Twitter, some people are talking about Svelte on LinkedIn. Svelte will replace React and stuff like that. So if you actually want to um, avoid getting distracted, and you need to be obsessed. You need to be so obsessed that you don't have time for um, conversations that take you away from your end goal. If you keep on switching from technology to technology, then you're clearly not obsessed, right? You're just, or maybe you are obsessed with, switching from technology to technology. But for me, you need to pick one thing that makes you feel so good. Like I touched on earlier, playing an infinite game, and pick one thing that makes you feel good as a person, right? And then it may not be, when I'm saying this, I'm not trying to be contrarian, I'm not trying to be out of the box. Like it can literally be one aspect of being a front end developer, and you can pick that at your job, and then you can be the best at it. Right? It could be performance, it could be accessibility, it could be UI cohesiveness, it could be usability, well, it could be refactoring. Like some people are into that, like becoming obsessed with something to the point where you have extreme specific knowledge on that particular thing, then you're going to avoid distractions. And then if you're someone that's into creative projects like me, I'm into more like side projects, creative projects and stuff like that. To avoid getting distracted, then you have to become obsessed with the outcome that you want your project to have. So when you do that, you don't need to, read 200 articles on focus. You don't need to buy a book on focus. You don't need to, you know, exert mental energy trying to stay focused. You just need to find a way to become obsessed. You just need to find something to obsess over. And then that focus is going to come naturally to you, right? And yeah, I hope you guys are benefiting from the things I'm saying. Um, Now, the final one I'm going to talk about is that something that you should avoid: lack of persistence, right? So, an extension of the long term game point, um, to actually see results, that you need to stick with something long enough. I think that the reason why we get so much mediocre stuff rolling about is that people don't have the persistence to actually sit and wait and make something that's absolutely great. And persistence is just one thing that you always have to have, because I always think about it from this point. We have these beautiful things that we interact with on a day to day, but if you think about it from another perspective of how much we've actually lost from people that didn't have persistence. I'm sure there are several humans out there who had beautiful product ideas, who had things that could actually change the world, but they weren't persistent enough. They couldn't see past the obstacles that they had. And so, we as humans and humanity as a whole are missing out on those things because we're missing out on those things because of their lack of persistence, basically. So that's how I see it. So if I stop now, if I don't give it the best that I could possibly give it, then humanity could basically miss out on this beautiful thing that I'm trying to make, or this beautiful way that I'm trying to advance my knowledge on a topic. I'm trying to make good software. Do you understand? And they could literally miss out if I stop now. So when you think about it from that perspective, and you also think about it as this thing where you're obsessed about it and it's an infinite game that you keep playing, then it's going to be extremely easy for you to to stay doing that thing and to be persistent, right? And so is um that is a breakdown. That's literally a brain dump of mine of how to be more creative in terms of like theory. Um, and yeah, I want to now move over to giving some practical tips on on stuff. So I I want to start by saying that one of the best ways to reason through things is to actually is to actually draw, is to draw things out, and many people do this, which is great and all. But you need to do it like a lot, like all the time. When you are trying to solve a problem, you need to draw things out, and you may not even need to use a pen and paper, as some people may suggest. You can use a pen and paper, which is fine, but you may not always have a pen and paper. You can use drawing tools. Me personally, I use a Draw, um, Draw.com, and that's why I made all the illustrations from the store, including the one that's on the screen now. Uh, and so what I try to do with Draw is that I try to draw out flows. I try to make like system design diagrams, and I try to just you know map out what the UI is going to look like, the problem I'm trying to solve exactly, you know, and I'm trying to represent that as realistically as possible. So when you are able to express an idea in the form of a UI, you're basically a great front end developer. Like as in you are able to express a solution to a problem in basically pixels and boxes and APIs, and if we actually break it down to the things that make up um, the thing that we do, which is creating software, you've actually become a great software engineer, a creative software engineer. So you need to start drawing out things and using Excalibur for spatial thinking, and that would like really really help you to um to start to create better things. What else? What other tips do I have? I would say, if you are building like a side project, you need to use, depending on your skill level. If you are still learning, I would recommend that you just stick with raw CSS or Tailwind. But if you are, farther along, you need to pick a good UI library to use, and use it per se. Yeah, and use it to the point where it allows you to think through the actual product itself first. Uh, so function over form, in terms of not thinking about the beauty of the UI without thinking about the way that it solves the problem. So um, when you use good UI libraries, you don't have to worry about how beautiful something looks to express uh, the idea that you're aiming at, the outcome that you're aiming to get. And yeah, I think that would go a long way to help you be more creative and move forward faster as a developer. So yeah, I mean, if there's any questions, anything that you want me to expand on, I'm happy to. And and yeah, over to the moderators. Over to the moderators. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys can gain a lot of insight and knowledge into being creative from avoiding these things. Right? Even if you don't remember the specifics of what I said today, you can always just remember the key points and avoid them as much as possible. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Sorry. Sorry, it seems the she's gone off.
Am I back? Can you hear me, Amy? You're muted if you're speaking.
Oh yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay. All right, thank you. I was saying thank you so much for that session. It was I really enjoyed it. And
Thank you.
I not just saying that because I'm
Yeah,
moderating. I
yeah,
really
yeah.
did. And I don't know if you heard me, but I was saying that the things you said, although I'm not a front end developer, I believe they are very transferable. I I remember you mentioned things like one of the things that stood out to me was the kind of goals we should have as developers. If you think about it, if we really
Yeah,
want to be doing this for a long time, our goals shouldn't just be, oh, I want to be a senior, or I want to work in this company, or I want to earn this amount of money. It should be about this software. It's like, oh, I want to do this thing called building software for a long, long, long time. And that's what would fuel our creativity. So thank you so much for that. And
definitely,
I want to
definitely.
mention one other thing that really stuck out to me, and that was yes, drawing. Yes, I really like that. You said we should draw all the time, draw processes, draw our ideas out, draw breakdowns of what we are thinking, our ideas,
Definitely,
and everything. And I
definitely.
think that's something I'm going to start like tomorrow. Okay, Monday, because tomorrow is
Monday,
Saturday.
Monday, Monday. But
Monday.
anyways, you can. Well, yeah, yeah. I get that, and it's really something that helps because if you're always writing things down, you
Mm-hmm.
can't, what's it called? You can't express, or how will I put it? You can't see the vision per se. But when you're drawing things out and you're just drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing, everything just forms like these cohesive, you know, this cohesive set of steps when you're drawing the flows, in a Scali
Yeah.
draw with pen and paper, and you're sharing it and you're getting immediate feedback. So it's just so beautiful, and I think you can actually go so much farther with just drawing alone. Yeah,
Thank you for that. Please, can you help us spell Escali draw so we can check it out? How's it
Scali
spelled?
draw, Excali draw, EXCALI, then draw. EXCALI draw.com. So yeah, it's like a visual, you know, software that you can just, it looks hand drawn, looks nice, and it just
Okay.
works really well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Just do that.
Thank you. Escali draw.
Yeah, Excali
So,
draw.
for those who would like to check it out, you heard it. Excali is EXCALI draw,
Yeah,
then .com. Thank
dot
you so
com.
much, Emide.
You're welcome. You're
Um,
welcome.
I I'm checking the comments to see if anyone has questions. Does anyone have questions for Emide?
Yes,
If no one
please.
has, may I have? Oh?
Like what and what?
No, let's see if anybody has questions. Okay, any questions? Okay, I'll just go ahead and ask mine if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, sorry. We try to.
Okay, so you mentioned distractions, and I must confess that's something I have struggled with um, quite
Yeah,
a bit. Like I've had
yeah.
periods where there's just massive distractions, where I'm not making much progress and learning anything new. So you said the solution to that is to become obsessively passionate. And I just want to ask, do you
Yeah.
have anyone, just one tip or two on how to become that passionate? Like it's something that we can start
Yeah.
doing like right now or tomorrow.
I mean, if you want to become passionate, then you have to be very, very, um, you have to be very, very deaf to outside opinions of what you should do as a person that makes, so like when I say obsessively passionate, like it could be literally something that's not mainstream at all. Like it's been a while since I heard someone say I'm a game developer. I make games. Yo, come and
Me
check out my
too.
game. It's been a while since I heard that. So it's like, why don't I just do games? Like if you think about it, you kind of get obsessed about things that excite you. So you have to figure that out, like what really excites me. For some people, they have like personal stories, like personal events in their lives that like have given birth to some sort of passion or something that they can talk about for hours. Like if you sit them down and just say something and it just triggers them and they're talking. So you have to figure that out. And then when you figure that out, you then have like this like, oh, you cannot think, okay, how can I bring that to software? You know, how can I bring that to software? For me, I don't know. It's not like a particular thing I was passionate about. I was just really passionate about like clarity, like when everything is just clear and that you can see things that people don't see per se. So I was really passionate about bringing that to software. That okay, if I can make a software product that just just like solves your problem in a way that you couldn't even express it yourself you know so it's just like how can I get good at expressing problems that good at expressing problems that way, and take that to building front ends and building companies and building software products basically. So if you want to get obsessed, it's like a very personal ritual that you have to go through every day to find something you know that you can just talk about freely, um, and then find a way to bring that to software. And it kind of has to be like if you tell certain people, the things that you're obsessed about, they're going to look at you like kind of weird, like I don't really like that. And then we're like, oh, that's like we may feel that our ideas or our obsessions are kind of weird, and because people don't like them. And I think that you have to bend that. You have to bend that. You have to bend that and just do the thing that you're obsessed about. And that's very, very difficult. Some people may not want to do that. That's why I said it's like two perspectives. If you have a job, a very boring job, you guys are not building an interesting product. I won't advise you to like quit your job because like how you pay your bills and stuff like that. But it's just like find something within that job that you can get extremely passionate about and become the best at it. Like if you're the best person in the world at accessibility, like if somebody starts to talk about accessibility to this guy today, this guy will be here till tomorrow. You're literally going to be a very rich dude. Like you're going to be a very renowned software guy simply because you know accessibility that much. And that could just stem from being in a boring job and then like, oh, accessibility. Let's just do accessibility and let's just find out how it works. And then you get so good at it and then you progress from there. It's like that's how you get obsessed. That's how you get obsessed with something. Um yeah, yeah, I mean you can think about it yourself, write it down, draw it out. It's just a thinking process that you have to go through. And then when you do that, you get obsessed and then become like me, you know. Yeah, yeah,
Obsessed, basically, like you.
yeah, yeah. Very good. Any
Thank you.
questions? Any questions? I was expecting somebody to, ask me to show them some code or something. I don't
I
know.
want. I wanted to ask, but then I
Yeah.
thought, let me not go and do too much because I have only one job here. Let not be as if
I
I'm
mean, I
talking
was
to you.
like, I remember the conversations that we were having over email. I asked the question like, how technical should this be? Because
Hmm.
everybody uses different tech stacks. I can't start coming here with my React and
Yes,
with my own biases, and saying that, oh, this is the best way to code, this is the best way to make software. Because now you're going to look at me and like, this guy, he seems to know what he's talking about. So let me go and start doing this
let me
one.
go and do that.
And that
Yes,
would be counterintuitive to the message I'm trying to preach, which is like figure it out
true,
yourself.
true,
And that's
very
why I
true.
didn't show you guys any particular theme and particular like piece of um like I didn't get too bogged down into my own processes because it's something that you figure out by yourself. But if you just avoid
Hmm.
those 6 things, you are good to go. You're good to go.
Amy Adikle, thank you so much for coming on today,
Yeah,
giving us
thank
your
you.
time. I know you're coming from work, and that must have been a lot to deal with,
Yeah,
but thank you very much. And,
Um,
you know, without further ado, we hope
yeah.
to see you some other time, hopefully for a more technical session where you can geek out
Yes,
all you
yes.
want.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Very exciting. All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Take care.
Thank you for coming
Take care,
on.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.